for all the small and medium exporters, and therefore refunds on your input tax should be automated and speedy. The third silo in the measures to boost exports is about export finance. This is very important, and I understand post the Board of Trade meeting, the DGFT is here, post the Board of Trade meeting which was held a day or two ago, an indication has been given that this is under consideration. I'm glad to announce, and I thank the Commerce Ministry for having put in a lot of effort to get this through. The Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, the ECGC, will expand the scope of ECIS and will offer higher insurance cover. Here I would want to just make sure that some of the numbers can be understood. Higher insurance cover to banks lending working capital for exports. Premium incidence for MSME will be moderated suitably, which is when MSME pay their premium towards guarantee that they receive from the ECGC, the premium that they pay will now be far lesser than what they had paid earlier. It is expected that the initiative will cost about 1,700 crores per annum for the government, but that will be the kind of support we are extending for the ECGC to offer that kind of guarantee for exporters. At the moment, for US dollar-based lending, whatever the prevailing rate be, this might come down by about 4% is our calculation, but I'm giving you a rough picture. And for the rupee, it will be coming down by about 8%. So that is the kind of difference it will make because of this facility that we are extending through the ECGC, and therefore the burden on exporters, particularly when they borrow and take credit and do their business, the burden shall come down. The credit insurance scheme, export credit insurance scheme, will benefit because of this extension of 1,700 crore per annum from the government for the promotion of credit guarantee by the ECGC. So this will enable reduction in the overall cost of export credit, including interest rates, especially to the MSMEs. The next silo is on the priority sector lending norms for export credit. These have been examined and enabling guidelines are under consideration with the RBI. We have had extensive discussion with the Reserve Bank of India on this, and they are on board. I am sure sooner they will also be able to release the necessary notification for this. This will release an additional 36,000 crores to up to 68,000 crores as export credit under priority sector, because banks use this in their basket of lending portfolios. When the priority sector lending category comes with this additional infusion, priority sector lending for export credit will increase, and this will give greater impetus for export sector. Then the next silo under measures to boost exports is the data on export finance is regularly published by the RBI. However, now export finance will be actively monitored by an interministerial working group, so that there is, hopefully, if this is going to immediately make a big difference, this might even look at it on a weekly basis. So interministerial working group is being formed, which will monitor export finance actively, and that will be located in the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce will run it, and it will also be tracked through a dashboard, reviewed with institutions, and also with active intervention being carried out where necessary. So the interministerial group will do a weekly monitoring. Export finance will be continuously checked, and also making sure the dashboard is available for everyone to see as to where the money is going and where it is getting clogged up, so that we can help remove any congestion. The next silo on export facilitation is leverage technology to reduce time to export or turnaround time. This is a very important step forward. Technology is further being used so that the initial time which is being taken the time to export that is being taken at each of the ports will come down. For an example, when we were discussing, ports like Boston take 0.55 days only for a turnaround, which is less than half a day. Shanghai takes about 0.83 days, whereas best of India, which is Kochi, takes 1.10 days. Now, we are using technology to make sure all the clearances which are required at every port and also custom related, and elimination of all offline material, manual services will all be removed, so that quickly our turnaround time at the ports will also reach the global best. So this is a major initiative which we want to push through in this time, so that the best of performance can help in more faster clearances at the ports. An action plan to reduce time to export or the turnaround time in airports and ports benchmarked to the international standards, which is what I read out to you with the examples of Boston and Shanghai, will also be taken up, and it will be completely implemented by December 2019, which is in another 3 months' time, maximum of 2.5 months' time. Actual turnaround time will be published in real time for everyone to see, for each port and airport, to push them to improve performance. So that's going to be available for you and me to see, and we can always monitor so that there's a greater sense of competition among ports. An interministerial group again will be made accountable for this. So it's not as if we've directed people, we are just waiting for them to implement it. We shall be monitoring it through an interministerial group. And the last but a very populist and attractive option is India shall hold annual mega shopping festivals, like the way you hear in Dubai, in an organized large-scale basis, and across the country in 4 different destinations. By March 2020 it should happen. The themes shall vary. They shall be gems and jewelry, handicrafts, yoga, tourism, textiles and leather, so that there is a greater clearly indicate to you and through you senior officer from the Department of Commerce will be set up to monitor an FTA utilization mission. What would he or she do? To work exclusively with the Federation of Export Organization and with the export houses. You know, there are nearly 32 export-related associations, federations, which are partly associated with the Commerce Ministry. All of them will be given a clear introduction to how to use all the concessional tariffs that exist in each of the FTA. For want of use, for want of maximum utilization of the concessional tariff which is already built in each of the FTAs, we find that many of the exporters are at a loss. Whereas when we find the other end of the FTA utilizing the features which are given they tend to better benefit from the Indian markets, whereas our exporters, for want of link or want of awareness or want of understanding the nuance which prevails in the FTA, don't benefit so much. So this mission, with the senior officer heading it, will immediately spend a lot of time looking at how to maximum utilize the concessional tariffs which are built in FTAs, enhance awareness of preferential duty, which is another area where we find many of our exporters are not really optimally benefiting from. So the preferential duty benefits which exist will have to be now widely spread among the MSMEs. So the dissemination of this information and facilitation so that compliance requirements such as the rules of origin, certificate of origin can all be much more streamlined, methodically used, and the exporters are not left to fend for themselves. And this will be available for the importers and exporters, and the set goals for FTA utilization are also put in place so that effective FTA monitoring system can be run. So this will come into play immediately so that any MSME, any exporter who wants to benefit from greater information can utilize the service. The other matter is on the origin management system. We find that most often under the rules of origin, most of our exporters suffer. For exporters to enable them to obtain certificate of origin, there will be origin management system which will be launched in the next few weeks by the DGFT. I'm glad that DGFT is here. If you have any questions, he can also answer. And this will be in collaboration with export inspection councils, because they play a very critical role in this. So the DGFT together with the Export Inspection Council will activate this. This is expected to significantly improve ease of doing business for the exporters. So that's about the free trade agreement. And the fifth silo, the last but one for the export measures, time-bound adoption of mandatory technical standards. This is an area which I'd like to highlight to all of you all. There shall be time-bound adoption by industry of all necessary mandatory technical standards and their effective enforcement to elevate the quality and performance of the ecosystem, enhance competitiveness, and address the issue of substandard imports. I need not, I'm sure all of you are aware, I need not underline the importance of this particular measure. Whilst it's important for quality determination of our export products, most often the imports which come in and the quality of the imports, the standards that they stand up to, are matters of great concern. So now it is very clearly something on which all the ministries are going to be working together so that we will, in a time-bound manner, adopt standards which are necessary. Technical standards which have to be put out also will be put out, so that not just ensuring our exports are qualitatively superior, but this will be enough for us to stand up and check on what kind of imports are coming into this country. A working group, therefore, on standards will be set up again in the Department of Commerce to work with industry so that they can lay down a roadmap for adoption of standards, timelines, and enforcement. This is expected to be a big boost in enabling Indian products to overcome any non-tariff barriers which are most often becoming a big.
రైట్ ఫైనాన్స్ మినిస్టర్ నిర్మలా సీతారామన్ మీడియా సమావేశాన్ని లైవ్ ద్వారా చూసాం. ఇక మిగతా అప్డేట్స్ చూస్తే దేశంలో జమిలీ ఎన్నికలు వస్తే
and handicraft cooperatives directly on the e-commerce portals and enable seamless exports. Mass enrollment will be undertaken for all artisans across India with help of the Ministry of Textiles and organizations like TriFed, because textiles deals with handicrafts also. So mass enrollment of artisans across India with the help of Ministry of Textiles and organizations like TriFed, CIE, and so on will be taken up so that handicraft promotion can happen. Now we move over to the housing sector. There's been a lot of consultation. Till now, the steps taken, a quick run through of what we've done till now. Affordable housing, during the budget we had announced. Additional deduction of up to 1.5 lakhs for interest paid on loans borrowed up to 31st March 2020, part of my budget announcement, to purchase of house valued up to 45 lakhs. In fact, I'd like to report to you here, I've had quite a few housing finance corporation companies calling me to say, this particular scheme has had very good offtake. There is a lot of response. In fact, I wouldn't even name the officials who've spoken to me, but now it's out for all of us to even check up that this particular scheme for affordable housing has really taken off very well. And I'm glad for that, and I wish all institutions funding housing under the affordable housing scheme should move faster, because there is a lot of interest among buyers. Then banks to launch repo rate or external benchmark linked loans. I'm monitoring it very closely so that banks do follow this instruction which has come from the Reserve Bank. As I said, on the 19th, I'll be meeting with all the public sector bank heads. I'm sure to take it forward there. Then the support for the NBFCs and the HFCs. You're aware the more credit support has been extended, and additional liquidity support for the housing finance corporations, which was up to 20,000 crore till now by the NHB, has now increased to about 30,000 crores. The partial credit guarantee scheme for purchase of pooled assets is also moving, and from the banks further to the NBFCs. Once again, after my review with the bank chiefs on the 19th September, I shall come back to report on how much is moving on that. But that's also one of the things I'll be talking with them on 19th of September. Then the credit enhancement for infrastructure and housing projects organization shall be provided, and that was part of the announcement in the budget. Then debenture redemption reserve is a major thing. A requirement for creation of a debenture redemption reserve for outstanding debentures in respect of listed companies, NBFCs, and for HFCs have been removed. Then Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, particularly the Grameen, you know the numbers, 1.95 crores of people will be eligible beneficiaries, with amenities like toilets, electricity, and LPG connections, all given during this phase ending 21-22. Within the next 2 years, this will be done. So what are we doing now? There shall be a relaxation of the ECB, the external commercial borrowing guidelines for affordable housing. So ECB guidelines will be relaxed to facilitate financing of home buyers who are eligible under the PMAY in consultation with RBI. So this is in addition to the existing norms for ECB for affordable housing. So external commercial borrowing guidelines are being relaxed. The next is house building advance. The interest rate on house building advance shall be lowered and linked with the 10-year GSEC yields. So this will particularly benefit government servants who contribute to a major component of demand for houses. This will encourage more government servants to buy new houses. The next, a special window for affordable and middle income housing is being created. This is a very important feature of today's announcement, in that a special window will provide the last mile funding requirements for housing projects which are non-MPA and non-NCLT projects and are net worth positive in affordable and middle income category to be set up. This particular window which will be set up with a fund size of 10,000 crores, which will be contributed by Government of India and roughly the same amount from outside investors. What we expect to do with this particular window is that this window or the special dispensation will be run by complete professionals. They shall be drawn from out the marketplace or experienced domain specialists who have either banking or housing finance related experience. They shall operate this window, and they in turn will be identifying all over the country such projects which are middle income and affordable schemes related, where nearly 60% of the work is completed and they don't have any more cash flow that they can complete the rest 40%. As a result, the middle income groups, affordable houses buying groups, people who are waiting for their houses to be given to them but who invested and are waiting can now find relief in that through this assistance the project shall get completed. People don't have to live in a rented house, keep paying their monthly installments and also not get their house in hands. So for all over the country, wherever the housing projects are stuck because they are not complete, can now seek relief so long as they are not an NPA and not in the NCLT. So such middle income projects and also such affordable housing projects which are almost complete but are waiting for the last mile cash infusion shall benefit from this special window that we've created with a core of 10,000 crores of rupees. As I said, government is not going to operate it, but certainly will bring in professionals who will run this. And we expect, therefore, unfinished units will get completed. Government of India, on the lines of NIIF, the National Infrastructure Investment Fund, can contribute to the fund, while rest of the investors would be like LIC, other institutions and private capital from banks, sovereign funds and DFIs and so on. The fund shall be set up as a Category 2 AIF, Alternative Investment Fund Trust, and would be professionally run with experts from housing and banking sector. So that's about the housing sector. So broadly today we have touched on exports and also housing, other than also giving you a quick picture of what we've followed up on the last two announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll take the first question here from the front row itself. Yeah.
Ma'am, with the current set of measures that you've announced on housing and exports, what is the total outgo? Because in the first scheme of exporters, we saw that about 50,000 crores of a revenue outgo it will be. But overall for housing and like you've also created a stress asset fund, how much outgo will it be? And what sort of a fillip are you seeing with this in the economy?
I've mentioned the numbers about what kind of investment, what kind of government money is going in and what is the revenue foregone. But the sectors are such. Sectors meaning the export sectors, and within the export area we are touching on labor intensive exporters and also giving a special dispensation for promotion of handicrafts. So we expect that it will immediately impact a lot of rural artisans and also small and medium units which are on an export drive. So the also the ambiguity about the continuation of MEIS is cleared. We have given a better scheme which will now take care of the requirement of support which the exporters would have needed, and therefore we expect that to immediately impact on all the SME exporters, those who belong to labor intensive sectors. That is one. And second, on the housing, the way we have worked at the way we have worked out with the window that we've given, we expect all over the country, not just the NCR and Mumbai, all over the country, wherever people are waiting for their apartments or houses to be completed, which are half finished, and the builders or promoters are waiting for the last bit of finishing to be done for want of money and for want of banks extending that loan anymore, they are suffering. We have clearly said for all the non-NPA, non-NCLT cases, at least this window will give them the opportunity to complete the projects and clearly hand over the apartments or the flats to those middle income people who are waiting for relief.
Since the fund is going to invest in those projects, how will the fund get back the money?
I can give you the details.
Will the fund get the ownership, or how will the fund get back its money, or what is the commercial interest of that fund to put in money in those such projects?
Of course, the securities and other things will have to be taken on board. The rules and regulations will be released in a day or two. You'll get to seeing it. But the idea is, do you want to add something more?
See, whenever such funds are prepared, they would decide to either go by equity or superior debt or by pari passu debts. And subsequently, there is an ICA, inter-creditor agreement, which takes care of the interest of the existing creditors as well as those who are coming up new. See, the important part of this is that otherwise, wherever those projects perhaps are looking at completion, but for one reason or the other, they don't have that kind of a funding available, then the existing creditors also over a period of time tend to move into NPA, NCLT kind of a category. Therefore, creditors are very keen that somebody comes in and brings that last mile funding. Therefore, ICA arrangement, and as I mentioned, that a melange of equity, superior debt, or a pari passu debt takes care of these kind of requirement of instruments which are very well known as FMS.
You will also announce the parameters on which the fund will choose to invest in the projects?
As soon as the fund and the AMC is in place, they will announce.
Okay.
Ma'am, while all those measures are a welcome move, for the housing sector, this 10,000 crore will be applicable for, you said non-NPA and non-NCLT. What about the projects which are already stuck? Like most of the projects in Delhi NCR, they are already either in NCLT and or NPA. So what will happen to those home buyers? Any thought for that?
If they are already in the NCLT, they will decide on how the whole thing will be resolved. That is why we are not picking up on those which are in the NCLT. If they are in the NCLT already, there is a process through which the NCLT will decide how to resolve those projects which are stuck.
But ma'am, that won't take care the problem of the home buyers, because most of the time these funds have been siphoned by the developers. So while your measure, they will take care of the future, lot of future affordable housing project. But what about already so many housing projects which are stuck, like 5.3 lakh crore? It's not a small number.
Ma'am, first thing, the solution here offered are first of all for those projects which are also not complete, where people have put in their money, home buyers are waiting, who are waiting because the builders will have to complete and give them. So this solution addresses them. But for you, for the question that you're asking, you're already saying what about those which are stuck in the NCLT, what about those which are stuck in the NPA? There are processes under the IBC which have been explained earlier also,